Many Americans grow up thinking that the Constitution says just what kind of country America should be. But the Constitution is only 5 pages, and it says very little about many critical issues, including how the American economy should work. In Andrew Jackson's view, there was no more important issue facing Americans, for their very freedom depended on it. Jackson believed that as long as America remained a land full of self-employed farmers and tradesmen, our democratic system of government was safe. But as the United States became more industrialized, more and more people were finding themselves taking orders from bosses. And Jackson began to worry that the government in Washington, D.C. would soon be taking orders not from the people, but from these same rich and powerful bosses.
Andrew Jackson was never a person who disliked the rich or people who had money per se. He was a rich man himself. But he had made it on his own. What he was worried about were people who were born to wealth, who would use their privilege in ways as to kind of pull the ladder up behind them. No one else would be allowed. They would become, as he put it, the forces of associated wealth. That wealth would associate to advance their own interests to the exclusion of, and sometimes to the injury of, other Americans. That was something that he thought had to be stopped, and stopped right away.
Above all, Jackson feared a new breed of economic institution that was springing up all across America. They were called corporations.
The problem with corporations, as far as Jackson was concerned, was they had no body to be kicked or soul to be damned. They were faceless, anonymous machines that were motivated only by making profit for their shareholders. And as a result, they could grow much, much larger than the average consumer, the average worker, the average citizen. So Jackson becomes very afraid of powerful corporations who can not only manipulate the economy, but also manipulate politics and run the country exactly in a way that will profit them the most.
But there were others who completely disagreed with Jackson and thought his attacks on corporations and the banks who loaned them money would destroy the American economy.
Jackson took a kind of fundamentalist view of money and credit. Gold and silver dollars were real money. Paper was in some sense fake. Those who were perhaps more astute economists than Jackson thought that this position was just short of Neanderthal. The United States had been built on credit. As Henry Clay said in the Senate, we have always been a paper money people. We won the revolution on paper money.
The battle between Jackson and his enemies over the future of the economy, called the Bank War, was one of the bitterest political feuds in American history. Afraid that he would ultimately lose the battle, Jackson issued this warning to the American people in his farewell address.
The laboring classes have little or no share in the direction of the great moneyed corporations. And unless you become more watchful and check this spirit of monopoly and thirst for exclusive privileges, you will in the end find that the most important powers of government have been given or bartered away, and the control over your dearest interests has passed into the hands of these corporations.
Andrew Jackson's fear of what corporations would do to America could not have been stronger. But 150 years later, people are still arguing about whether that fear was remarkably prophetic or utterly ridiculous.